one thing that you unfortunately, you are tormented by people that obviously say whatever they want, right? And they live a fantasy. I'm just listening to this person who's telling me he's gonna rape you and then you're gonna die, right? And she start talking this ways. It's like can just like try, and I've seen who's talking to me. I understand that what's gonna happen to me is already said because as this entity they work for, um, the entity they work for is so funny. But I'm gonna get to the points that I need to make here. Uh, have our government oriented entities. We're talking about DARPA, CIA, DOD. The kind of those entities. But these people themselves are perhaps the weakest human beings and clowns. To be honest, even though what they do to me is horrible, they're clowns because obviously I know they're just the bottom feeders. And I hear this person talking to me, and she's trying to sound a certain way. They use these people who live like a fantasy. I wish I could have taken more picture of them. And you see them, you know they're not like they live off a reality they can put together. They basically don't live based on reality. They create a reality and block out the reality they're actually in. The reality they're in is just a reality of doing foulest psychological and physical torture, which include pedophilia type of torture, right? With me, they try to make you think that this is me. Like, at this point, it's over. There will be no points where I'll be like, they're not doing the pedophilia type of torture. I'm too validated to the point where they used to be comfortable to be seen. Oh, they love to be seen before because I didn't know about these things. And they were and I know it was not me, but I was like, I mean, it's just not me. And they're like, no, it's you when you were a kid, black girl. Right? Or using fashions like, no, we match it to you. It was like, okay. Now, at this point, the level of validation I have, matter of fact, I'm going to put my validation again here because I make sure that these people have to dumb themselves down as much as they have to. And I want to take them all the way to the level of no return. And so, you see earlier they were doing this pedophilia type of torture. They wanted me to subscribe to that. And they force you these sexual arousals toward children. That's the things they do. You're going to listen to the testimonies, things they've heard 100 times. The perception manipulation, the pedophilia type of torture, all of that. You're going to hear that. And it's the things they've heard too many times. And as much as they try to live their little fantasy using this different tonality, which at this point I feel like they're doing it more to just to agitate me. It's just too much. I hear this person's like, we kill pedos, and she sounds like that, right? And obviously I don't know if she's like trying to sound this gimmicky on purpose. I don't know if she's purposely sounding like that, but it sounds like she's just like I want to sound fierce and full of shit. Sorry for the language. It's like, we kill pedos. The reason why this is comical because those entities that is empower her to do what she's doing to me are entities full of pedophiles. There is a pattern of pedophilia. There's a big pattern of pedophilia in these agencies contracting this trash, right? Starting from there. Second of all, these people torture children sexually. They harm kids sexually. You're gonna hear that too. They hurt kids sexually. They torment them sexually. With this technology, they do things to the kids and aim it toward their genitals. This is the people talking to me. Let's not even end there. They've been renowned that they do this pedophilia type of torture. You'll hear that. They force you to think in these pedophilia ways. Disturbing ways is part of the tactic to break people down. They torture women in these disgusting ways too, but also do the pedophilia type of torture. You're going to hear that. They force you at night to have disturbing pedophilia dreams or whenever you sleep. You're going to hear that. They do all these pedophilia ways of tormenting. Almost all target individual, almost all, are forced to have child porn played in their mind. So, as I'm saying that, she's like, black girl, right? Apparently that is what I'm supposed to subscribe to. Obviously, I know this is the nasty things they do to me. Black girl is like you see when you were a kid. I mean, I don't want to say the word. I'm not going to use that word. Spectrum like individual. Right? You're going to hear what I'm saying. These people are renowned for tormenting people in a pedophilic way. They obviously know that I know that, but they want to live that fantasy. I'm going to listen to that again. We're going to listen to this again. You have perps who never want to be seen because the level of humiliation they will have by me looking at them, and all they can say is black girl, which is something they've manipulated me to react to certain ways. They obviously do the pedophilia type of torture of all sorts. We're going to listen to all of that. I'm not going to let them live their fantasy. They're not going to escape from this. They've been torturing children and women and do the pedophilia type of torture. Black little girls are being tortured by this trash. White little girls are being tortured by this trash. Little boys are being tortured by this trash. And they do this pedophilia type of torture and force you to experience disgusting things. They are pedophiles. If they're killing pedophiles, they should kill themselves. They are pedos for involving themselves and participating in things that are so disturbingly disgusting and utilizing this pedophilia type of torture. Now, I don't want them to kill themselves. I actually want them to live this life for the rest of their life. I want them to continuously do these things until the time comes for them. But they gotta understand, for me, when they try to sound try to sound menacing, because what's happening to my body, which is empowered by them, by these entities filled with pedophiles, right? Well, this trash can even say Roy Moore. You understand the patheticness of these slow lives? I can look at them in the eyes and go, you're fucking pedos. You're fucking pedophiles. Excuse my language, but people like them deserve to be heard, to hear that word coming out and insulted by that. But they know that. And they're like, oh, you're going to do this and that's going to happen to you and then you'll die. It's like, okay, you'll be working for pedophiles and then you'll die. You'll be doing the pedophilia type of torture and then you'll die. You finally will save Roy Moore after a while, then you'll die. You'll be torturing women and then you'll die. You'll be doing the pedophilia type of torture and force people to think in this pedophilia ways and then die. Your gaslighting is the gaslighting. They just say things to agitate me because they know I'll call them the pedophiles. And then when they force you to have disgusting perception, estimation toward children, try to gaslight you into accepting that, it's like, shut up. You do the pedophilia things. There's no rape that's going to make me subscribe to that. Everybody knows you do the pedophilia type of torture. But matter of fact, if you forgot, let me remind you and enlighten you again about what you do. As I'm saying that, they're like, oh, but remember what you did as a kid. That's my point. We're talking about people who have systematically been doing pedophilia type of torture. And torturing even children. And they have to talk about me as a child and try to exaggerate and manipulate and try to make me think I'm in my 30s. And make me subscribe to these things that are nonsensical when there's testimonials from all around the world saying they do the pedophilia type of torture. And by the fact, they torture kids sexually. So that alone, if I see them, they understand what I see them as. So stay strong and know that justice will be done and listen to what they do.
Every day has been a miracle of survival. I also experience what is referred to as malodorance. This is the alteration of the smell sensation so that I am often made to smell various things, including smoke, burning, dirty diaper, or baby powder, which they sometimes combine with the pedophilia type of torture, including the threat of planted dreams and videos in my closed eyes. Stimuli and is very intolerable. They sometimes do pulses or throbbing sensations on the genitals too, etc. There are also body movements. I also often see highly disturbing pornographic images and videos, including highly disturbing pedophilia type of images and videos when I close my eyes. V2K, or voice to skull. This involves the projection of voices, noises, and music directly into my mind to communicate with me in real time and at the speed of thought. And it also includes the manipulation of thoughts, emotions, and perceptions in the person's mind. Additionally, the targeting is all highly perverted.
It is dramatic. It's somebody trying to end my life. It's somebody trying to end who I am as a person. It's somebody trying to take over my mind, putting thoughts of pedophiles. Like, this disgusting things. You saw where I was going with that first word. Disgusting things that I don't even want to talk about because it makes me sick. I don't even like those words in my mind. But it is what it is. So I have no choice now but to acknowledge that there are people in my surroundings or whatever they're doing. I don't know how they do it. I don't care. I don't know if it's through weapons. I don't know. I don't care. I just don't want it.
Psychologically specialized for each target. Most common examples include homosexual targets that are forced with voices that are derogatory to their lifestyle and similar mental images. Almost all targets are forced to view child pornography in their minds.
First was with my dog. I am very playful with my pet, and suddenly one day that I was petting him I felt strange, in the sense of the word. I thought, this is strange, and then afterwards that strange sensation continued. Then in that moment I realized that was impost, so I thought, look at this losers, don't know how to put me down, and they are doing this. So I told them that I know what you are trying to do, and I started laughing, and then I said again out loud, you'll never take my will, ass. So just to show them that I meant what I said, I kept playing with my dog, and even though that attacks continue, I don't let them get me. Today they continue with the programming of perversion, but this time they are aiming in the use. A people, better said young people, also children.
Practice with young children. I had a 7-year-old client who has autism. She was the most significantly affected of all of my clients. I eventually had to tell this client to go to another clinic. And they used her to threaten the most torture in me as well as their most extreme forms of torture. For several months, she would cry and scream horribly during our therapy sessions despite having a great day at school. This was highly unusual behavior for her, as she usually behaved very well during her therapy sessions and had been making incredible progress on all of her therapy goals. This was used to threaten extreme torture on me, making me scream and cry, etc. They would make the kids act out the kinds of torture that would later be done on me. For example, they would also sometimes make her bite her hand, threatening to make me bite my hands, as they often do. One day, she had a large, severe bite mark on her arm. She has also grabbed her crotch, saying, ow, and this was used to threaten me with severe sexual torture. One day, I also observed her gasping for air a few times in the same way that I do when I am being more severely suffocated. The suffocation had been in a mild state for a while up until this point. Many of their torture methods are cyclical in severity. Right after I saw this child being suffocated, then I began to experience very extreme suffocation all day, every day, for about 2 months straight, and that's also when they made it worse when I eat. Then I also work with a 4-year-old little girl with Down syndrome, as well as her 5-year-old sister, who also has Down syndrome. I observed both of these girls suddenly grabbing their genitals in pain and verbalizing, ow. I observed this at least on 1 or 2 occasions for each of them during their I also have had a couple of kids that experienced zaps of pain to their hands as they covered the sore spot with their other hand, saying, ouch. While the V2K in my head crotch and leaned forward in his chair. Then he made a frightening grimace of severe pain. I asked him what was wrong and if he needed to use the restroom, but he said no to having to use the restroom and was not able to verbalize anything more due to his language delay. He looked puzzled and bewildered. Even though I had stated that it was time to do more work right before this incident, I quickly just let him play another game, and he quickly returned to his joyful, happy self again. In other sessions, he has also grabbed his crotch and said, ow, while looking up at me. A while back, I had a 4-year-old client at my office who complained of disturbing sounds in his ears when none were around. It only happened as soon as he entered my office. Once he complained of a roaring, drilling construction sound in his ears that I then later heard myself when I got home as a form of V2K, and the V2K said, "That's what he heard," and put the child's image in my mind along with the memory of the incident. Most of the kids I work with are accompanied by their parents to their therapy sessions, which is something I encourage so that I can provide parent education on therapy techniques that they can implement at home to continue supporting and helping the child make more progress. Now I would like to talk.
Thyroid problems, high blood pressure, heart problems, vision loss and cancer. Two of my children were born premature, which I attribute to this. Our son Dylan, now age 9, was born very premature. He was born at 31 weeks. During her pregnancy, with Dylan, we were being targeted more so than other times. At the delivery there were weird men walking and waiting around the hospital. Right outside our delivery room window, there was a white cargo van parked with 2 suspicious men inside. They were there the entire labor, a delivery. Our son had to be transported to another hospital 45 minutes away. When arriving to the Toa hospital, those same men and van were present. Three of my children have severe rashes that have not been explained by several doctors. These rashes have been present for several years at a time. If interested, I will gladly furnish you with detailed photos of the rashes. Our infant daughter, at 3 weeks old, was diagnosed with Lerner syndrome. This was after a severe rash appeared on her body after a few days of torture. We were told by a couple doctors to take her home and love her and spend the rest of the time we have with her. They told us she would ultimately die from this syndrome. Thank God that Lerner syndrome was not what affected our daughter. Doctors are still dumbfounded by her rash and symptoms. Sadly, we know that her symptoms were effects from the torture this poor innocent 3-week-old baby endured. Recently, I lost complete time. I exhibited the flashing lights. My 9-year-old son Dylan complained about the lights. You will often hear that vision is something that is greatly affected with this type of torture.
So disturbing. At a symposium in 2016, Daniel Payne, a top Pentagon security official, said that when workers' computers were examined, the amount of child porn I see is just unbelievable. Is this something that is happening for whatever reason with more frequency in our intelligence agencies, or is this something that is more pervasive in the general population than I originally realized? I mean, what's going on here? This is so bizarre. Remember, it's so evil.
Allie, we're told, and when I was put through recruitment into the intel community, you're put through polygraphs, you're put through a rigorous selection process. Why aren't these people weeded out? Why are so many pedophiles allowed to be given top-level security clearance? Remember, these aren't just people walking in off the street and saying, hey, can I get hired? Can I get a job? You're put through an extremely rigorous background check screening process. It's called an SSBI, single scope background investigation. There are people, they interview you, they interview your family, they interview your contacts, they go through your online footprint, they go through everything. So why is it that when they're going through these footprints, they're not checking, these digital footprints, they're not checking for so many pedophiles getting through their ranks? If it were up to me, you need to go into Congress, and Congress needs to launch a brand new church committee, number one, to talk about domestic surveillance operations, but number two, to ask the question, why are there so many pedophiles sitting behind those computer screens within the walls of Langley, within the Pentagon, and throughout the broader intelligence community?
Such a lack of fearing any sort of accountability. For crying out loud, while on assignment, 1,400? You must have not been doing any job.
Well, even if you had to look at it to make sure you knew what it was, don't you just need to look at one?
Right.
You're like, I better check the other 1,399 just to be safe.
Yes, I better check the other 1,300 labeled tax names.
Unbelievable. Oh my goodness.
And the guy with the 6-year-old? Twice. Yeah, twice with the 6-year-old.
Ugh.
So and here's the scariest part, out of the 10 instances, that are described in the report, only one person was ever charged with anything. Yeah. With anything. Comment below. Do you guys know this story? This should be catnip for the media, right? Think about it. You've got this lewd behavior. You've got corruption at the highest levels of government, right? Aaron Brockovich, something about fake tits and tap water. Yeah. The CIA raping children and sexually assaulting children, and they're not being prosecuted? Where are you? Where are you?
Sexual contact. This is one employee of the CIA had sexual contact with a 2-year-old and a 6-year-old. He was simply fired. One employee purchased sexually explicit videos of young girls filmed by their mothers. He resigned. One employee estimated that he had viewed up to 1,400 sexually abusive images of children while on agency assignments. Not sure what actions, if any, were taken by him. One contractor arranged for sex with an undercover FBI agent. I think that you mentioned that. Posing as a child, he had his contract revoked. One CIA staffer was charged with child sexual crimes, and the employee was also under investigation for mishandling classified.
So, and this is what they try to escape. As I was saying, they use the different tone of voice, right? This is like the serene, menacing voice. Oh, there it is. It's like, no, we match it to you when you were a kid. Now, you hear the obvious things they do here. You see the obvious things they do. It's obvious patterns of pedophilia, not only in the ways they torment people, but also the people in charge of things and the way they torture children while they try to use the different tone of voice for me to subscribe to it. No, they try to match. It's like, no, we match it to you when you were a kid. There it is. It might be. And they use this fraudulent tone of voices. No, you're brainwashing me to make me subscribe to this nastiness. You manipulate my brain just like you manipulate so many others. Almost all target individuals are forced to get these disturbing pedophilia ways of thinking and perceptions and stimulations. And you work for entities filled with pedophiles. So I'm sorry, your tone of voice is not going to make me subscribe to it. Because you are the pedos. Even if you, let's just say, you don't do things to kids that are in your personal life, but you are involving yourself in a world where pedophilia is utilized to torment and manipulate people in disturbing ways. And the entities that contract your trash ass are filled with pedophiles. And you torture children sexually, hurt them in all different ways, include sexual, non-sexual, and every other ways possible to torture children using this very sophisticated weaponry. Well, you're here using your different tone there, maybe. Okay. Yeah, I might be. You're not doing the pedophilia type of torture that you do to almost all target individuals. You can't even say Roy Moore. We're a bunch of pedos. They're like, we proved it. Listen, you proved it that you don't do the pedophilia type of torture. You proved that you don't torture children. You proved that you don't manipulate people to think in these disturbing ways. Yeah, okay.